All right, what is up, guys? We are back with the Glock 27. If you've been following the recent videos, um I've already done the beginner's guide to stippling, and then the other video that went over the gas pedal cuts and the Glock knuckle cut. And just to kind of the people that are following, this is the finished product. Well, just about the finished product. So right here, I stippled the outer edge just so it'll kind of give you all some depth perception. So it's stippling, depth, and then some on the rear face there, stippled all that in. Same on this side, stipple the edge, gives you a little bit of depth perception on here. Knuckle cut, just kind of end up flowing all that in. Not too bad. This is actually the first one that I've actually kind of liked doing the individual sections. Usually I just go ahead and say screw it and wrap it all the way around, to stipple that whole portion. But I mean, I'm definitely not mad with it. Alright, so for those of y'all that clicked on this, this is going to be the reassembly. There is a disassembly that I can try and link. I'm still, like it, if y'all are following the page, I'm still trying to work out all the YouTube kinks with me being, fairly new to this. So let's say, you're, empty lower and empty slide. So go ahead and pull this. Go ahead and set your lower to the side. Alright. Empty. Only thing that's on this slide is going to be the sights and then the plastic sleeve, which is down in your firing pin hole. So what you're going to want to do is, in my opinion, do your pin striker last. And again, I already went through this. If this is stripped down all the way, your best bet, you put this black piece on first, go in from the top, fit the striker in right here, and then on the slide, you're going to insert the plastic portion, keep the striker kind of either to your 10 o'clock or your 3 o'clock, and then that gives you a base. And then you put the spring on the striker, and then you basically you squeeze the top of the spring, you push the spring all the way down. You won't be able to get it all the way down, not unless you're like Hulk Hogan or anything, but you can get it down, and then you should have two little plastic cups. And once you get that spring down, you can fit one cup on one side and then one cup on the other side. And if I can try and get this in view, see that little space right there? You pull that spring down, and once you get in that space, you fit those plastic pieces on the inside of your springs, and then slowly let it back up. And then the pressure of the spring pushing on the plastic ends up basically trying to separate the plastic, and then that entraps that spring overall, and that's your working striker. So that's your walkthrough, your talk through, more or less, of how to assemble your striker. And then once you get that assembled, there shouldn't really be any assembly necessary with this portion. But if this is for some reason disassembled, it's three pieces. You're going to have your rod, your spring, and then a little plastic plug. The spring is friction locked to the end of the rod. There's like a little nub, and you can stick the spring over the nub, kind of rotate it, and that locks it into place. And so what you're going to want to do, put your rod into that smaller hole right there. You don't want to push it all the way in yet. And then you're going to get your plunger, and The spring on this is going to be friction locked too. If it's two separate pieces, what you're going to do, put the spring inside the hole on that plunger and kind of rotate it to the right clockwise. Not too hard because you don't want to bend it or anything, but you'll know when it locks in. You can turn it upside down, kind of move it around, and it won't fall out. And you slowly kind of ease it in there because you don't want to drop it. You don't want that spring to fall out on you. If it does, it's easy to fix. All right, so your plunger is out all the way. Going to put your extractor just like that. Remember, your hook is going to go towards where your chamber is going to be, and you push it in, and then once you get it about that far, you're going to push the rod the rest of the way in. Just gotta say that. Alright, once it's pushed as far as it's going to go in, you're going to push your plunger all the way down. And then as you push your plunger all the way down, you're going to want to put steady tension on your extractor. And once it gets down to that level, it'll pop in. And so that's basically what that should look like. Your little plastic piece kind of sticking out, and your plunger and your extractor should be locked. Only thing that should be able to be moved is going to be that tension rod. Alright, and then lastly, you're going to put your striker / firing pin, and might need a little bit of assistance getting in there. Alright, once you get all that done, that's basically what you're looking at. You're going to have these two raised pieces. Lastly, you're going to fit this on, and to fit it, you just have to line it up, get yourself a pin pusher, and basically you're just going to push down on the plastic. Alright, that's your first step. So now that's flush in there, and then lastly, I recommend going down to a smaller set just to kind of give you a little bit more room in there. And then once you get that under, boom. Alright, and then just to check everything, you can push down on that plunger, and that striker should be able to go freely forward. Pull the striker back, and you should hear that click. And then that's that plunger resetting so that that firing pin doesn't go through, and that striker's basically stopped from getting pushed forward. It can go back all at once, but it stops right on that plunger. So that's essentially the easiest safety system test, quote unquote. Alright, so there's that. And of course, I mean, you shouldn't really need too much talking to get that barrel in, and then get that recoil spring in. Alright, and then that's your fully assembled slide. Not too hard on that one. Down to the lower, first thing you're going to do, if you did pull that block out, you're going to push that block back in. That's how that's going to look. Make sure I'm still in focus. Good, still in focus. Alright, and let's see. Next is going to be your trigger. If this is all bits and pieces, I explained it in the disassembly. So you have essentially 4 pieces here. You're going to have your trigger attached to your bar. Going to have your trigger spring. And then you're going to have your connector. And then I just had a brain fart. I forgot what this back piece is called. So forgive me on that. Don't slam me too hard. The spring is going to have, it's going to be like an S spring. It's going to have a curve at the top, and a other side is going to have a curve at the bottom. So see if I can, so on the bottom it curves clockwise, and going towards the trigger is going to kind of curve, like, I guess imagine the top being 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then the bottom coming in from the spring from 3 o'clock. It's going to go from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So you're always going to hook your trigger. You're going to hook towards your trigger, and then on the back side you're essentially hooking away from the trigger. So kind of remember that setup. If you accidentally reverse it, it will more than likely come loose when you start shooting. So just be careful of that. And then once you get it attached, you're going to slowly kind of push it down, and then get that connector between that piece and where your striker meets up, and then you're going to rotate it down. At this point you can feel that spring tension, and then kind of curve it down, and it should more than likely pop into place just like that. If y'all need me to do a short, I can just comment, and I'll be more than happy to take this back apart and show you the full assembly on it, in a short 60-second clip. And then from here you're going to insert, kind of get your trigger, make sure I'm still in frame here, get your trigger in. Actually, I apologize. Let's see. Sorry guys. Alright, so one thing I forgot, the trigger bar. That locking block has to be out. Okay, so you can push that trigger through, kind of offset that block so you can push the trigger through, push the back all the way in, make sure it lines up with that hole, and you can see my hand kind of flashing through there, so that hole is open. And then, so once you get that trigger in, push that block down, and just to kind of test everything, you can push forward on that trigger bar and just make sure nothing's going to wiggle loose. And then let's see, then you're going to assemble your slide catch. And so to assemble your slide catch, you're going to fit it, so there's a trigger. You're going to fit it between the trigger and the frame. Push forward, and then you're lining that hole up as well. Alright, so now we kind of get into the pins. So I usually push out from the left side, and then I'll put the pin in from the left side. So everything operational happens from the left. I have yet to have any issues with it, with doing it that way. So you push it in, and then so the first thing that you're going to check is just double check. Make sure that the first thing that gets locked up is going to be that slide catch. And then next, you're going to make sure that trigger, there, just like that. A little bit of tension, and you can push that trigger up and then that pin just magically pops on in there. And then the smaller pin's actually going to be a little bit more tricky, mainly because you just have to have something to push the tension spring down. The tension spring is going to be on that magazine catch, or I'm sorry, the slide catch. So let me see if I can get that in view. That little wire right there, that's the tension spring. So you push down on that, and then you can, just like that. So now you see the bar, and then that tension spring is on the underside of it. And this one's a little bit tighter, so just get you a small hammer, tap it in. So it's flush right here. You just have to kind of center it up, kind of even out the spacing on both sides. Yep. Alright. So before I put that last pin in, I just try and make sure that everything functions up front. Alright. And then from there, just put that last little pin in. And then on the very back, it's going to be flush with the hole. So I'm sure if you look on the other side, you'll figure that out yourself, but just might as well throw that out there. All right. So last but not least is going to be some people call it the takedown bar, others call it the locking bar. I just usually just call it the bar, or the disassembly bar. So what you're going to want to do on your 4s, you're going to have this style spring, and I believe on your 3s, don't quote me on it, but I believe on your 3s and 4s it has this style spring. On your Gen 5s, you're actually going to have a really tiny tension spring that fits down on the center. And just be careful if you disassemble Gen 5s, because those little springs will shoot an easy 10-20 feet. No joke. I've taken plenty of them apart, and that's happened. Alright. So basically that large part, out of focus. Alright, so that bigger part is going to be up. Let's see. Should have been an instruction. Well, I can at least show you one easy way of taking these out real fast, since I'm going to show you. Push down. Basically, you're wanting to get this pushed down as far as you can while pushing from one side or the other. And it should slide out. I apologize, guys. Let's see. There it goes. Okay. So when you push down, you're also going to push to one side or the other, and then you can pull it out like that. Alright, so again, this is what I should have done. When you put it in, you want it the trapezoid. You want the smaller area towards the top, and it fits in just like a key. Just like that. And see, if you don't push that rod down, you're just going to end up bending it. If you forget about it and you just slam it in, you'll end up messing that spring up. So, before you put it in all the way, push that spring down. All right, and then just kind of push it the rest of the way. All right. All right, and then once you get that in, guys, just go ahead, pull it down. Make sure it functions, make sure it doesn't get hung up anywhere, make sure it doesn't push out easily. Just basically make sure that spring's doing what it's supposed to do. And, lastly, assemble it. Make sure it functions. Go ahead, make sure no bullets magically made its way in there. Pulled. All right. Check, listen, make sure you didn't forget any screws, or make sure you didn't lose your wallet or your keys somewhere in there. And other than that, that's a assembled working Glock 27 Gen 4. And other than that, guys, I apologize for as long as this video took, 22 minutes. But if you somehow, for some reason, made it to the very end, thank you. If you like the content that I've been putting out, please like and subscribe. I'm not asking for money or anything like that. Those subscriptions, they kind of help me get on my way to be able to, put out a little bit more videos, and also, get more people to watch. And more people that watch, the more video ideas that I get. So other than that, like I said, like, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one.